Welcome to Woo English Channel, where you can learn English through engaging and inspiring stories. Today's story has been a beautiful journey through the lives of Jacqueline and John Kennedy. If you've enjoyed this tale of love, resilience, and hope, please remember to like and subscribe for more captivating stories that help you learn and improve your English. Let's continue our journey of learning together. Chapter 1. A Sparkling Encounter. In the heart of the vibrant city, under a sky full of stars, a grand dinner party was taking place. The room was alive with laughter and music, filled with people chatting and enjoying the evening. Among them was Jacqueline, a young and intelligent woman with a keen sense of style. Her eyes sparkled with curiosity as she observed the lively scene around her. Jacqueline, often called Jackie by her friends, was known for her elegance and grace. She had a love for art and history, and she could often be found reading a book or visiting a museum. Tonight, she wore a beautiful dress that matched the sparkle in her eyes. As she moved through the crowd, her attention was drawn to a man standing across the room. He was tall, with a confident smile and an air of importance. This was John Kennedy, a rising star in the world of politics. He was known for his charismatic personality and his passion for making a difference in the world. John noticed Jacqueline looking at him and walked over to her. "Good evening," he said with a friendly smile. "I'm John Kennedy. And you are?" "Jacqueline Bouvier," she replied, returning his smile. "It's a pleasure to meet you." The conversation between Jacqueline and John flowed effortlessly. They talked about many things: art, history, and their dreams for the future. Jacqueline was impressed by John's knowledge and his desire to bring positive changes to his country. John, in turn, was captivated by Jacqueline's intelligence and her elegant manner. As they spoke, the world around them seemed to fade away. They laughed and shared stories, finding that they had much in common. The evening passed quickly, and before they knew it, the party was coming to an end. "I've really enjoyed our conversation," John said sincerely. "Would you like to meet again? Maybe for a cup of coffee?" Jacqueline smiled, feeling a connection with John. "I would like that," she said. They exchanged phone numbers and promised to meet again soon. As Jacqueline left the party, she felt a sense of excitement about the future. She had a feeling that this encounter with John Kennedy was just the beginning of something special. This chance meeting at the dinner party was the start of a beautiful journey for Jacqueline and John. Their conversation that night laid the foundation for a relationship that would capture the hearts of many. It was a night to remember, a sparkling encounter that marked the beginning of a remarkable story. As Jacqueline walked home under the starry sky, she thought about John and their conversation. She felt a sense of hope and anticipation about what the future might hold. She knew that John was a man of great ambition and that a life with him would be full of adventure and challenges. But she also knew that it was a journey she wanted to take. This first chapter in the story of Jacqueline and John Kennedy was just the beginning. It was a chapter filled with charm and wit, setting the stage for a relationship that would become an important part of history. In the days and years to come, their love story would unfold, full of romance, drama, and moments that would forever be remembered. As the moon shone brightly above, Jacqueline reached her home. She entered, her heart filled with the memory of the evening. She knew that she had just met someone extraordinary, someone who could change her life forever. And with that thought, she closed her eyes and drifted into a peaceful sleep, dreaming of what the future might bring. Chapter 2. Whispers of War. The world was changing. Everywhere people talked about new ideas and big changes. In the middle of all this, John Kennedy's name was becoming more and more known. He was a young politician with bright ideas and a strong wish to make his country a better place. Jacqueline, now often seen with John, listened to his speeches and watched him work. She saw his love for his country and his desire to help people. This made her admire him even more. John talked about important things like freedom and peace. He believed that everyone deserved a chance to live a good life. His words were strong and full of hope. They made people listen and think. As John's girlfriend, Jacqueline went to many events with him. She met other politicians and important people. They talked about the world and its problems. Jacqueline learned a lot from these talks. She started to understand more about politics and what it meant to lead a country. But it was not an easy time. The world was on the edge of big changes. There were whispers of war, of countries disagreeing with each other. This worried many people, including Jacqueline and John. John knew that these were serious times. He wanted to do something to help keep the peace. He worked hard, speaking to people, and trying to find ways to solve problems without fighting. Jacqueline saw how hard John worked. He often came home late, tired but still full of energy. He cared so much about his work. It made Jacqueline proud to be with him. Sometimes they would sit together and talk about the future. They both dreamed of a world where people lived in peace and had what they needed. They knew it was a big dream, but they believed it was possible. Jacqueline also saw that politics was not easy. There were people who disagreed with John. They had different ideas about what was best for the country. This made things complicated. But John always stayed calm and respectful. He listened to others and tried to understand them. This was one of the things Jacqueline loved about him. As time went on, John's name became more popular. He started to think about running for a bigger office, maybe even President of the United States. It was a big dream, but John was not afraid to dream big. Jacqueline stood by him, supporting him. She knew that this journey would not be easy. There would be challenges and hard times. But she believed in John and his dreams. She knew he could do great things. The whispers of war grew louder in the world, but John and Jacqueline hoped for peace. They worked together, dreaming of a better future. It was a time of hope and fear, of big dreams and big challenges. John's journey in politics was just starting. There was a lot to do and many things to learn. But with Jacqueline by his side, he felt ready for anything. Together, they looked towards the future, ready to face whatever it might bring. Chapter 3. A Proposal Under Stars. One beautiful evening, John took Jacqueline out for a special dinner. They drove to a lovely place where they could see the whole city. The stars were shining brightly in the sky, and the moon was full and bright. They sat at a table with a wonderful view. The air was cool and fresh. They talked and laughed, enjoying each other's company. The dinner was delicious. But Jacqueline could see that John was a little nervous. He kept looking at her with a special kind of smile. After dinner, John took Jacqueline's hand and led her to a quiet spot under the stars. He looked into her eyes and said, "Jacqueline, these past months with you have been the happiest of my life. You are so smart, so kind, and so beautiful. I can't imagine my life without you." Jacqueline felt her heart beat faster. She had never seen John so serious and so full of emotion. John continued, "I want to be with you forever. I want us to face the future together, with all its love and challenges. Jacqueline Bouvier, Will you marry me?" Jacqueline was speechless for a moment. She looked into John's eyes and saw his love and hope. Then she smiled and said, "Yes, John, I will marry you." John took a small box out of his pocket. Inside was a beautiful ring. He put it on Jacqueline's finger, and they hugged. They stood there under the stars, holding each other, feeling so happy and excited about their future together. They talked about their dreams, about the life they wanted to build. They knew it wouldn't always be easy. John's life in politics would be busy and sometimes hard. But they believed in each other. They knew they could face anything as long as they were together. As they drove back to the city, Jacqueline looked at her ring. It was so pretty and sparkled in the moonlight. She felt so loved and so lucky. She couldn't wait to start this new chapter of her life with John. When they got home, they called their families to share the news. Everyone was so happy for them. Plans for the wedding started right away. It was going to be a big and beautiful event. The days after the proposal were full of excitement. Jacqueline and John talked about their future, about where they would live and what their life would be like. They were both so busy, but they made time for each other. They knew that their love was the most important thing. John's proposal under the stars was a moment they would always remember. It was the start of a new journey for them, a journey full of love and adventure. They were ready to face the world together, hand in hand, heart to heart. Chapter 4. The Wedding Bells Ring. The day of Jacqueline and John's wedding arrived. It was a beautiful morning. The sun was shining and the sky was a clear blue. Everyone was excited, especially Jacqueline and John. The wedding was going to be a big event. People from all over the country were interested in it. After all, John was a well-known politician, and his marriage was big news. Jacqueline woke up feeling happy and a little nervous. She had dreamed about this day since she was a little girl. She thought about how her life was about to change. She was going to be Mrs. Kennedy, the wife of a famous man. It was a big step, but she was ready for it. Her dress was stunning. It was long and white, with lace and pearls. She looked like a princess. Her mother and friends helped her get ready. They all told her how beautiful she looked. John was getting ready too. He wore a smart suit and looked very handsome. He felt proud and happy. He couldn't wait to see Jacqueline walk down the aisle. The church was decorated beautifully with flowers and ribbons. Many important people were there, including politicians, family, and friends. Everyone was excited to see the couple. The music started, and everyone stood up. Jacqueline walked down the aisle with her father. She looked so beautiful, and everyone turned to look at her. John watched her, feeling so lucky and full of love. They stood in front of the priest and looked into each other's eyes. They said their vows, promising to love and support each other in good times and bad. They exchanged rings, a symbol of their love and commitment. Then the priest said, "I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." John and Jacqueline kissed, and everyone clapped and cheered. They were finally married. After the ceremony, there was a big celebration. There was music, dancing, and delicious food. John and Jacqueline danced together, looking so happy and in love. They cut the wedding cake and took lots of photos. The celebration lasted late into the night. Everyone had a wonderful time. They all wished the couple a happy and long life together. The wedding was a beautiful start to John and Jacqueline's life as a married couple. It was a day full of love, joy, and celebration. As they left for their honeymoon, they were excited about their future together. They were ready to start their new life, facing whatever came their way with love and strength. John and Jacqueline's wedding was a day to remember. It was not just the start of their marriage, but also the beginning of their public life together. They knew they had challenges ahead, but they also knew they had each other, and that was all that mattered. Chapter 5. The First Hurdles. After the wedding, John and Jacqueline started their new life together. It was a time of happiness, but also a time of many changes and challenges. As a politician, John had a very busy schedule. He had meetings, speeches, and many responsibilities. He was often away from home, traveling to different places. This was hard for Jacqueline. She missed him a lot when he was gone. Jacqueline also had to adjust to being in the public eye. As the wife of a well-known politician, people were always watching her. She had to be careful about what she said and did. This was a new experience for her, and it took some time to get used to it. The couple also had to learn how to live together. Every couple has to figure out how to share their lives, and John and Jacqueline were no different. They had to learn about each other's habits and how to make decisions together. One of the first challenges they faced was finding a balance between their private life and their public life. They wanted to have time for themselves, but John's job was very demanding. Sometimes Jacqueline felt lonely and wished for more time with John. John, on the other hand, felt the pressure of his work. He wanted to do a good job and make a difference, but he also wanted to be a good husband. He tried to make as much time as possible for Jacqueline, but it was not always easy. Despite these challenges, John and Jacqueline's love for each other was strong. They talked a lot and tried to understand each other's needs. They knew that communication was key to a happy marriage. They also made sure to spend quality time together whenever they could. They had dinner dates, went for walks, and talked about their days. These moments were precious to them. Another challenge they faced was dealing with people's opinions. Everyone seemed to have something to say about their marriage. Some people were supportive, but others were not so kind. This was difficult for both John and Jacqueline. However, they learned to ignore the negative comments and focus on their love for each other. They knew that as long as they had each other, they could face anything. As they overcame these early hurdles, their relationship grew stronger. They learned to support each other in good times and bad. They became a team, facing the world together. These first challenges were just the beginning of their journey. There would be more hurdles to come, but John and Jacqueline were ready for them. They had each other, and that was all they needed. Chapter 6. A Rising Star. John Kennedy's career in politics was taking off. He was becoming more and more popular. People liked his ideas and his way of speaking. He had a natural talent for connecting with people. His words inspired them, and they believed in him. As John's career grew, so did the attention on him and Jacqueline. Everywhere they went, people recognized them. Cameras flashed and reporters asked questions. This was exciting, but it also brought new pressures. John had more responsibilities now. He had important decisions to make and many people to meet. His days were full of meetings, speeches, and travel. He was often away from home, and when he was there, he had a lot of work to do. Jacqueline felt proud of John. She saw how hard he worked and how much he cared about his job. But she also missed him. Sometimes she felt alone in their big house, waiting for him to come home. Jacqueline also had new roles to play. She was now the wife of a rising star in politics. People looked at her as a role model. She had to be careful about what she wore, what she said, and what she did. This was a lot of pressure, but Jacqueline handled it with grace. The couple's life was changing. They were no longer just John and Jacqueline. They were becoming important figures in the public eye. This was exciting, but it was also challenging. Sometimes the pressure was hard for both of them. John worried about making mistakes and letting people down. Jacqueline worried about the constant attention and losing their privacy. But they faced these challenges together. They talked about their feelings and supported each other. They made sure to find time for each other, even if it was just a few minutes in a busy day. John's success also brought new opportunities. He started to think about running for higher office, maybe even president. This was a big dream, but John was not afraid to dream big. He believed he could make a real difference in the country. Jacqueline supported John's dreams. She knew he would be a great leader. She was ready to stand by him, no matter what. As John's star rose, the couple's life became busier and more complicated. But their love and commitment to each other remained strong. They were a team, facing the challenges and pressures together. John and Jacqueline's journey was just beginning. There would be more challenges, more successes, and more changes, but they were ready for them. They had each other, and that was their greatest strength. Chapter 7. Elegance in the White House. John's hard work and dedication paid off. He won the election and became the President of the United States. It was a proud and exciting moment for both John and Jacqueline. They were about to start a new chapter in their lives, one that would be remembered in history. As President and First Lady, John and Jacqueline moved into the White House. The White House was not just a home, it was a symbol of the country. People from all over the world watched what happened there. Jacqueline knew her role as the First Lady was important. She wanted to make a positive impact. She had a special grace and style that everyone admired. She was different from other First Ladies before her. Jacqueline took great care in how she presented herself. She wore elegant clothes and had a unique sense of fashion. Her style became famous, and people everywhere tried to copy it. But Jacqueline was more than just a fashion icon. She was intelligent and interested in the arts and history. She wanted to make the White House a place of culture and beauty. She worked on many projects to decorate and restore it. She wanted to make it a place that reflected the history and values of the country. John was busy with his duties as president, but he always found time for Jacqueline. They continued to support each other. John valued Jacqueline's opinions and often talked to her about his work. Jacqueline also started to work on her own projects. She focused on education and culture. She believed these were important for the country. She organized events at the White House, inviting artists, writers, and musicians. She wanted to show the world the rich culture of the United States. Being the First Lady was not easy. There was a lot of pressure and attention. But Jacqueline handled it all with grace. She became a role model for women everywhere. People admired her for her elegance, her intelligence, and her hard work. John and Jacqueline faced many challenges in the White House. It was a time of big changes in the world. They had to make difficult decisions and deal with tough situations. But they did it with courage and determination. Jacqueline's presence in the White House brought a new energy. She showed that the First Lady could have a big impact. She was more than just the president's wife. She was a partner and a leader in her own right. John and Jacqueline's time in the White House was a special period. They worked hard to make a difference and to serve the country. They faced challenges, but they also had many successes. They left a lasting mark on the country and the world. Jacqueline's elegance and style, combined with her intelligence and hard work, redefined the role of the First Lady. She showed the world what a First Lady could be. She was not just the woman beside the president, she was a powerful figure who made a real difference. Chapter 8. Trials of the Presidency. John's time as president was filled with both triumphs and challenges. It was a period of great responsibility. He had to make decisions that affected not just his country, but the whole world. One of the biggest triumphs was when John led the country in a successful space mission. This was a proud moment for everyone. People watched their televisions, holding their breaths until the astronauts were safely back on Earth. When they returned, the whole country celebrated. It was a big achievement for John and his team. However, not every moment was a triumph. There were also tough times. John had to deal with conflicts in other countries. He worked hard to find peaceful solutions. He believed in peace and did everything he could to avoid war. But these were complicated situations, and sometimes there were no easy answers. Jacqueline stood by John through all these times. She saw the weight of the responsibility on his shoulders. She knew how hard he worked and how much he cared. She did her best to support him, to be a source of comfort and strength. At the same time, Jacqueline faced her own challenges. She had to deal with the constant attention from the media. Everything she did was watched and talked about. This was not always easy, but she handled it with grace. She also continued her work on cultural projects. She wanted to make sure that the arts and education were not forgotten. She organized events and worked with artists and educators. She believed that these things were important for the country's spirit. John and Jacqueline's life in the White House was busy and sometimes stressful. They had little time for themselves, but they tried to make the best of it. They had quiet dinners together and talked about things other than work. They reminded each other of the love and partnership that brought them together. One of the hardest moments came when there was a crisis in another country. John had to make tough decisions. He spent long hours with his advisors, trying to find the best way forward. The whole country waited anxiously to see what would happen. Jacqueline watched John during this time. She saw how seriously he took his responsibility. She admired his strength and his dedication. She knew he was doing his best for the country and the world. In the end, John's careful and thoughtful approach led to a peaceful resolution. It was a relief for everyone. It was a testament to John's leadership and his commitment to peace. Throughout their time in the White House, John and Jacqueline faced many trials, but they also had moments of great success. They worked hard and did their best for their country. They faced each challenge with courage and determination. John's presidency was a time of change and growth for the country. He and Jacqueline left a lasting impact. They showed the world what strong and compassionate leadership looked like. Their time in the White House was a chapter of history that would always be remembered. Chapter 9. A Mother's Love. In the midst of her busy life as the First Lady, Jacqueline had another very important role, being a mother. She had children who needed her love and attention. This was a role she cherished deeply. Jacqueline was determined to give her children a normal and happy childhood, despite living in the White House. She wanted them to grow up feeling loved and secure. This wasn't easy, with the constant attention from the public and the media, but Jacqueline did everything she could to protect them. She set up private areas in the White House where the children could play and learn. She made sure they had a routine with regular meal times and bedtimes. She read to them, played with them, and took them on outings. She wanted them to have experiences just like other children. Being a mother in the public eye was challenging. Jacqueline had to balance her duties as the First Lady with her responsibilities as a mother. She often had to attend events and meetings. Sometimes she had to travel with John. But she always made sure her children were well taken care of. When she was at home, Jacqueline spent as much time as possible with her children. She was involved in their education and activities. She talked to their teachers and made sure they were doing well in school. She wanted them to have the best education possible. Jacqueline also tried to keep her children away from the media as much as she could. She wanted them to have a private life, away from the cameras and the public. She knew the importance of protecting their childhood. Her children were her pride and joy. She loved them deeply and did her best to be a good mother. She wanted to give them a strong foundation for their future. Jacqueline's role as a mother showed her strength and dedication. She managed to balance her public duties with her private life. She showed that it was possible to be both a first lady and a loving mother. Her love for her children was clear for all to see. She was often photographed with them, showing her affection and care. These images touched the hearts of people all over the country. Being a mother in the White House was not easy, but Jacqueline did it with grace and love. She was an inspiration to mothers everywhere. She showed that no matter how busy or important you are, family comes first. Jacqueline's children grew up knowing they were loved and supported. They had a mother who was strong, caring, and dedicated. Her love for them was a guiding force in their lives. Jacqueline's role as a mother was one of the most important parts of her life. It was a role she played with passion and dedication. She was not just the First Lady, she was a mother, and that was her greatest pride. Chapter 10. Challenges of the Spotlight. Living in the White House, John and Jacqueline Kennedy were always in the spotlight. Cameras followed them everywhere, and reporters were always eager for news about the first family. This constant media attention was exciting at times, but it also brought challenges, especially when it came to protecting the privacy of their children. Jacqueline was particularly concerned about the impact of the media on her children. She wanted them to have a normal childhood, away from the public eye. She knew that growing up in the White House was unique, but she also wanted her children to have experiences just like other kids. The reporters were always trying to get photos and stories about the family. Sometimes they would even follow the children to their school or to the park. This made Jacqueline worried. She wanted to shield her children from the constant attention. She worked hard to create a safe and private space for her family. She made sure there were strict rules about who could take pictures of the children and when. She also spoke to the media, asking them to respect her family's privacy. She wanted her children to grow up without the pressure of being constantly watched. John supported Jacqueline in this. He understood the importance of protecting their children. He knew that his role as president meant his life was public, but he agreed that their children needed privacy. Jacqueline also had to deal with rumors and stories in the newspapers. Sometimes the media would publish things that were not true. This was difficult for the family. Jacqueline had to be strong and ignore these rumors. She focused on what was important, her family and her role as the First Lady. Despite the challenges, Jacqueline handled the spotlight with grace. She was always poised and elegant, even when the attention was overwhelming. She knew that being the first family meant being in the public eye, but she managed to keep a balance between her public duties and her private life. The family had their happy moments too. They would have private dinners, go on trips, and spend time together away from the cameras. These moments were precious to them. They were a time to relax and be themselves. Jacqueline's resilience in protecting her children's privacy was admirable. She showed that even in the most public of lives, it was possible to maintain a private world. Her dedication to her family was clear, and she did everything she could to give them a normal life. The challenges of the spotlight were part of life in the White House, But John and Jacqueline faced them together. They were a team, working to protect their family while serving their country. Their love and commitment to each other and their children were stronger than any challenge they faced. Chapter 11. The World Stage. As the President and First Lady, John and Jacqueline Kennedy had the opportunity to travel around the world. They met with leaders from different countries, discussing important issues and building relationships. On these trips, Jacqueline showed her skills in diplomacy and charmed everyone she met. Their first big trip was to Europe. People in Europe were very excited to meet the American president and his wife. The streets were full of people hoping to catch a glimpse of the famous couple. Jacqueline had prepared for the trip carefully. She learned about the cultures and traditions of the countries they were visiting. She even learned a few phrases in the languages of the countries. She wanted to show respect and make a good impression. In France, Jacqueline charmed the French people with her fluent French. She spoke to them in their language, which made them very happy. The French newspapers wrote about her elegance and intelligence. They said she was a great representative of the United States. In other countries, Jacqueline also made a strong impression. She met with leaders and their families, talking about art, history, and culture. She listened carefully and asked thoughtful questions. People were impressed by her knowledge and her interest in their countries. John was proud of Jacqueline. He knew that she was a great asset on these trips. She helped to make the meetings more friendly and relaxed. Her charm and intelligence opened doors and made their work easier. Jacqueline also visited schools and charities during these trips. She wanted to learn about the lives of the people in these countries. She met with children, teachers, and volunteers. She listened to their stories and shared her own experiences. These visits were important to her. She believed in the power of education and wanted to support good causes. The trips were not just about diplomacy. They were also about building friendships. Jacqueline's warmth and kindness helped to create strong bonds between the United States and other countries. She showed that diplomacy was not just about politics. It was also about people and relationships. Traveling the world was an amazing experience for Jacqueline. She saw new places, met interesting people, and learned a lot. She also faced challenges, like long days and being away from her children. But she handled these challenges with grace and strength. Jacqueline's role on the world stage was important. She showed that the First Lady could have a big impact in diplomacy. She was more than just a supportive wife. She was a partner in her husband's work. Her charm, intelligence, and warmth made her a beloved figure around the world. John and Jacqueline's trips were a success. They strengthened relationships with other countries and showed the world the best of the United States. Jacqueline's role in these trips was a key part of their success. She was a shining star on the world stage, representing her country with elegance and skill. Chapter 12. A Time of Turmoil. During John's presidency, the United States faced many difficult situations. There were crises both at home and abroad. These were times of turmoil, and they tested the strength and unity of John and Jacqueline Kennedy. One of the biggest challenges was a conflict with another country. It was a tense time, with the whole world watching. John had to make tough decisions. He spent long hours in meetings, discussing the situation with his advisors. Jacqueline saw how much this weighed on John. He was worried about the safety of the people and wanted to find a peaceful solution. She did her best to support him. She listened to him, offered advice, and gave him the comfort he needed. At the same time, there were problems within the country. There were disagreements about how to handle certain issues. People had strong opinions, and sometimes there were protests. John had to find a way to bring people together and find solutions that worked for everyone. These were stressful times for the couple. They had little time to relax or be alone. The pressure was constant, and the stakes were high. But they faced these challenges together, as a team. Jacqueline also had her own role to play. She used her position to bring attention to important issues. She spoke about education, culture, and the need for understanding and peace. She believed that these things could help make the world a better place. Despite the turmoil, John and Jacqueline remained strong. They showed the country and the world their dedication and courage. They stood together, united in their desire to do what was best for the country. In the midst of these challenges, there were also moments of hope. John and Jacqueline met with leaders from other countries, working to build relationships and find peaceful solutions. They showed that diplomacy and dialogue were important tools in resolving conflicts. They also focused on positive initiatives. They worked on projects to improve education, support the arts, and help those in need. They believed that these efforts could make a real difference in people's lives. The time of turmoil was a test of their leadership and their relationship. But they passed this test with strength and grace. They showed that they could lead the country through difficult times and make tough decisions. John and Jacqueline's unity and determination were an inspiration. They showed that even in the hardest times it was possible to work together and find a way forward. They were a team, facing every challenge with courage and hope. The nation's crises were a significant part of John's presidency, but they also showed the strength of his and Jacqueline's partnership. Together, they navigated these challenges and worked to make the country and the world a better place. Chapter 13. Shared Dreams. In the quieter moments, away from the hustle and bustle of their public lives, John and Jacqueline Kennedy often talked about their dreams for the future. These conversations were special. They were a chance to share their hopes and visions, not just as President and First Lady, but as a couple and as a family. John had big dreams for the country. He wanted to see a nation where everyone had equal opportunities, where people lived in peace and worked together for a better future. He dreamed of a country that led the world not just in power, but in science, education, and the arts. He often talked about these things with Jacqueline, who listened and shared her own thoughts and ideas. Jacqueline, on the other hand, had dreams that were both big and small. She dreamed of a world where children could grow up safe and happy, where they could learn and explore and become whatever they wanted to be. She also had personal dreams, to see her children grow up, to continue her work in the arts and culture, and to enjoy a long, happy life with John. Together, they talked about their family's future. They wanted to make sure their children had a normal upbringing, despite living in the White House. They dreamed of seeing them go to school, make friends, and find their own paths in life. They talked about the values they wanted to teach them: kindness, courage, and a sense of responsibility to others. John and Jacqueline also shared dreams about their time after the White House. They looked forward to a time when they could travel more, enjoy simple pleasures, and maybe write books about their experiences. They imagined a quiet life, filled with the love of family and friends. These dreams were a source of strength for them. They were a reminder of why they worked so hard and what they were trying to achieve. In times of stress and challenge, thinking about their dreams helped them stay focused and motivated. Their dreams also brought them closer together. They were partners, not just in their public roles, but in their personal lives. They understood and supported each other's dreams and worked together to make them come true. John and Jacqueline's dreams were about more than just their own future. They were about the future of the country and the world. They believed that by working hard and staying true to their values, they could make a real difference. Their conversations about their dreams were full of hope and love. They showed the depth of their partnership and their commitment to each other and their country. These dreams were a beautiful part of their life together, a testament to their shared vision and their hope for a better future. Chapter 14. An Unthinkable Tragedy. It was a day like any other, with the sun shining and people going about their lives. But in an instant, everything changed. A shocking event occurred that would forever be etched in the history of the nation. John F. Kennedy, the President of the United States, was tragically taken from this world. The news spread quickly, leaving the country in disbelief and sorrow. People everywhere were stunned, struggling to understand how such a terrible thing could happen. It was a moment of profound sadness, a tragedy that touched the hearts of millions. In the midst of this overwhelming grief, Jacqueline Kennedy stood with immense courage and dignity. She had lost her husband, the father of her children, the man she loved. The pain was unimaginable, but she faced it with remarkable strength. Jacqueline's poise during this time was a source of comfort and inspiration to the nation. She showed a resilience that was truly admirable. Her grace in such a moment of personal loss was a testament to her character. Despite her own deep sorrow, Jacqueline thought of others. She thought of her children, who had lost their father. She thought of the nation, which had lost its leader. She knew that her actions in those days would be remembered, and she wanted to honor her husband's memory. She took part in the planning of the funeral, ensuring that it was a fitting tribute to her husband. The world watched as she walked bravely, holding her children's hands, a picture of dignity and grace. Her composure in the face of such a public tragedy was nothing short of extraordinary. In the days and weeks that followed, Jacqueline continued to show her strength. She spoke to the nation, sharing her grief, but also her hope for the future. She reminded people of John's vision and dreams. She encouraged them to come together, to continue the work that he had started. Jacqueline's courage during this time of tragedy was an inspiration. She became a symbol of strength and resilience. Her ability to face such a profound loss with such dignity was a lesson in grace and bravery. This unthinkable tragedy was a turning point in the nation's history. It was a time of deep sadness, but also a time of reflection and unity. The nation came together to mourn and to remember a leader who had inspired so many. For Jacqueline, it was a time of personal loss, but also a time of immense strength. She showed the world what it meant to face the unthinkable with courage and dignity. Her grace in the face of tragedy will always be remembered, a shining example of resilience in the darkest of times. Chapter 15. Legacy of Love. After the tragedy, the world seemed a different place for Jacqueline. She felt the weight of her loss deeply, but in her heart she knew she had an important task ahead. She was determined to preserve John's legacy, to keep his memory alive, not just for her family, but for the entire nation. Jacqueline began working on projects that would honor John's memory and his vision for the country. She wanted to make sure that his dreams and his work would not be forgotten. She knew that this was what John would have wanted, and it gave her a sense of purpose during a very difficult time. One of her first projects was to establish a library in John's name. The library would be a place where people could learn about his life and his presidency, It would house his papers, speeches, and other important documents. Jacqueline worked closely with architects and planners, sharing her insights and making sure that every detail was just right. She also became involved in various causes that had been important to John. She supported the arts, education, and civil rights. She spoke at events and lent her support to organizations that were working to make a difference. She wanted to continue the work that John had started, to keep his spirit alive in the world. In addition to these public projects, Jacqueline focused on her family. She wanted to make sure her children remembered their father and understood what he had stood for. She talked to them about John, sharing stories and memories. She showed them photos and videos, helping them to know the father they had lost. Jacqueline also took time to write about her experiences. She wrote letters and notes, capturing her thoughts and feelings during this time. These writings were a way for her to process her grief, but they were also a record of an important period in history. Through all of this, Jacqueline showed remarkable resilience. She faced her grief with strength and dignity. She was determined to make sure that John's life and work were remembered and celebrated. The projects she worked on became a testament to their love and to John's impact on the world. They were a way to keep his spirit alive, a legacy of love that would endure for generations. Jacqueline's efforts to preserve John's legacy were an inspiration. She showed that even in the face of great loss, it was possible to find a way forward. She honored John's memory by continuing his work, by keeping his dreams alive. The legacy of love that Jacqueline created was a beautiful tribute to her husband. It was a reminder of what they had shared and of the impact they had made together. It was a legacy that would continue to inspire and touch the hearts of people for many years to come. Chapter 16. A New Chapter. The world had changed for Jacqueline, but life continued. As she moved forward, she carried with her the memories and love from her life with John. She looked towards the future with hope, knowing that each day was a chance to start a new chapter. Jacqueline spent time with her children, watching them grow and guiding them with the lessons she and John had valued. She saw in them the same spirit and curiosity that John had, and it filled her heart with joy. She talked to them about their father, making sure they knew how much he had loved them and how he had wanted the world to be a better place for them. She continued her work on the projects that were important to her and John. The library in his name was a place of learning and remembrance, a tribute to his life and legacy. She also supported causes that they had both cared about, like the arts, education, and human rights. Through this work, she felt connected to John and to the ideals they had shared. Jacqueline also found new interests and passions. She travelled, exploring places she had always wanted to see. She met new people and learned about different cultures. These experiences broadened her view of the world and gave her new perspectives. She took time for herself, too. She read, wrote, and reflected on her life. She thought about the past, but she also made plans for the future. She knew that life was a journey with many paths, and she was open to seeing where these new paths would lead. Jacqueline's resilience and hope were an inspiration to many. She showed that it was possible to face the hardest times with grace and to find a way to move forward. She lived her life with the knowledge that each day was a gift and an opportunity to make a difference. As the years passed, Jacqueline's life continued to evolve. She saw the world change in many ways. but her core values remained the same. She stayed true to herself and to the lessons she had learned from her life with John. The story of Jacqueline and John Kennedy was one of love, loss, and legacy. It was a story that had touched the hearts of people all over the world. As Jacqueline began this new chapter of her life, she did so with the strength and grace that had always defined her. Jacqueline's journey was a reminder of the power of hope and the resilience of the human spirit. She had faced unimaginable challenges, but she had also experienced great love and joy. Her life was a testament to the belief that, even in the darkest times, there is always a light that shines, guiding the way forward. As this chapter of her story closed, Jacqueline looked to the future with a heart full of hope. She carried with her the memories and love from her life with John, and she was ready to see what the next chapter would bring. Her story was far from over. In many ways, it was just beginning. As we close this captivating journey through the lives of Jacqueline and John Kennedy, remember that your adventure in learning English doesn't have to end here. Visit wooenglish.com to explore more enthralling stories that can enhance your English skills. There, you can also download free ebooks in PDF format, providing you with a wealth of learning materials at your fingertips. Continue to enrich your English language journey with Woo English, where stories come alive and learning becomes an adventure.